Peace, peace, everyone. Peace, y'all.
Islam.
Islam.
Oh, I'm on. Yay, it
We're
worked.
on.
Okay.
We
I'll
are
take that as a
live.
good sign. You know.
All praise due. Gratitude, gratitude. We are live and direct, and so we got some people coming in, and we're just gonna get started. Um, First and foremost, I want to thank you for coming on. I'm very excited about this interview, and I want to let the audience know that this sister is very knowledgeable and very thorough on what she does. Um, just based on my research, and let me just say this: I want to personally thank you, not only for being on the platform, but a long time ago, you may not remember, back in 2014, you reached out to me via Facebook and you asked me to do a voiceover of an article I did called More Money some time ago. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that, but I do remember setting up a store for you.
Okay, okay,
I
okay.
remember that.
Yes,
So I
yes.
guess we've been doing some stuff for a while.
Yeah, in the background, in
Morris
the
be busy.
background.
It's like I know I did something. I'm just so sorry.
Yo, no,
you
all is
know.
well. All is well. So let me introduce you to everyone. This sister here, she has a very unique story. She is an author. She is a book publisher. She is a researcher. She is an entrepreneur. Um, she is the creator of Khalifa Media, the managing editor of Khalifa Media. She also has a very unique background in the sense that, and we're going to get into that and how you came into the Moorish Divine National Movement. But because of that, you bring such a wealth of knowledge. And without further ado, um, it is none other, and please correct me if I mispronounce your name. I have it as officially Sister Taheedah S. Najee-Ullah ill.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. That's exactly how you say it.
Oh,
Perfect.
praise Allah.
Exactly. So yeah.
Praise
That's
Allah.
how I tell intelligent people, or at least people that try,
Yes.
because they always go, "Oh, it's just like it looks." Yeah. So thank you for not making me have to say that to you, because it looks like you just tried. You just read it, So Islam to that. Yeah.
Islam. So I want to start first with your journey into the Moorish Divine National Movement. Now, I know by getting your book, and I have your book here.
Islam. Thank
Right
you for
here.
your support. Appreciate
Oh,
that.
you're welcome. You're welcome.
20% goes to Mercy Charities, a charity for Moors, gathering resources for industrious Moors. MercyCharities.org. So yeah,
Absolutely.
Islam.
Absolutely. We plugging that in. So y'all definitely support the Muslims Girl Training Guide, divinely prepared for the Sisters Auxiliary of the Moorish Science Temple of America. In your bio in the back, it says that you were born and raised in the Nation of Islam.
That's correct.
And so that being said, how did you come into the teachings of Prophet Noble Drew Ali? That's what I would like to ask.
Well, excuse me, since you asked. All right. So I might jump around a little bit, but I'm going to do my best to just go in a straight line. All right. So, like you said, I was born and raised in the Nation of Islam. When I was in I was in my 20s, I moved to Arizona and finished college. Wound up getting a job out there, getting settled and all that stuff, right? Oh, I should mention that I'm from Chicago. So I grew up Nation of Islam in Chicago, and I never heard of Noble Drew Ali, not one time, right? Wow. So I'm in Arizona living my life, still being a Muslim as best as I can. And my father passes in 2000. What was that? Almost 2007. It was almost 2007, or it might have been 2007. And he left some things, not that many things, but he left some things, and he also left some money, right? So I'm looking through his things, and I find this piece of paper, like a piece of cardboard or something. And I'm like, I remember this. I remember this from childhood. And I just set it aside, right? Didn't think nothing of it. And next thing I know, I get a pretty good job out of college. The piece of cardboard will matter in a minute. I get a job out of college, right? And when my father passed, my job also dropped the bomb that they were closing their office, right? So I'm like, okay, double whammy. But they were like, we're not going to fire you. You're going to have to resign because we're just closing the office. Your job is moving across the country to Georgia. Okay. Well, I just moved into a new apartment 3 weeks ago. I haven't unpacked anything but the beds. I guess I'm moving to Georgia. Crazy story. So my father passed. I'm in my apartment, packed up. My father passes. Then they announced that the office is closing. So I'm getting ready to move to Georgia. This all happened between, I'll say, August, September to November of the same year. So thank goodness my father left the money because I'm like, I can go because my father left me some money to leave. Remember that piece of cardboard, right? So pack up my stuff, my household, move across country to Georgia, Augusta, Georgia. Shout out to Augusta, Georgia. And I'm living there for a year, minding my business, doing my job, And a friend of my sister's, I have a twin sister. A friend of actually, I don't even know if he was a friend. Some guy who ran into my sister at the bank said he was going to be in Georgia, and for some reason he called her, and she was like, oh yeah, hit up my sister. Okay, so you don't know this guy, but you telling him to hit me up. All right. So cool guy. He's from Georgia, right? I think he's from I forgot where he was from, but he wasn't from Augusta, but he had been through Augusta, and he was Sagittarius, so he traveled all over the place, knew everybody. So he was like, oh, this is cool that you in Augusta. I got some people I want you to meet or go contact one after I leave because I'm just passing through town. Like, all right, cool, take their information. Turns out it was a gift shop with I guess a study group, a Moorish Science Temple study group in the back.
Okay.
So we going through classes because they like filling people out trying to and this is 2008. They filling people out trying to be like, should we tell them about what this really is? Because it was really cool. It was just something that just like resonated. And it was all these other people who didn't fit in whatever they were doing. They were trying their best, but they just didn't fit in because they just didn't get down with the black thing. They were cool with everything else about our culture except the black. It sounds like you're growing up, And finally, some meetings later, they like, have you ever heard of Noble Drew Ali? Room full of, I think it was like 20 of us. No, who? Right? And so they like, yeah, just go home tonight and you look them up yourself, and then we'll talk about them next week. Go back, look them up. I know that face, dig through all the stuff that my father left me. That piece of cardboard was a constitution.
Wow.
He knew about it. It was a lot of stuff. It's like, there's a lot of stuff I'm starting to realize as I get older that he got us really close. I feel like it was like a relay and I'm taking over from where he left off because he was born Christian, left that behind, joined the mosque. I was born Muslim, a year and 2 days after my parents got married. Me and my sister showed up, right? And I left that. He was a submitter. My father was dang near, what was it? A Hafiz, where they know the Quran by heart.
Yes.
And this is kind of trippy. It's like this is probably the closest I'm gonna get to having that bruise that he had on his head from praying so much, right? And it's just interesting. It's like, despite all that, I'm honored to be the daughter of somebody like that. I can't stay with that because I see why you left Christianity. That's exactly why I got to leave Islam and go to Al-Islam. and go back to our own stuff, Islamism. So yeah, that's how I found more science, you know. Spent 18 plus years in Chicago. I left as soon as I could, you know. And like, come
Right.
on, 17 years, 364 days, I was out, right? And then I never went back really, unless I had to. Then wound up in Arizona, took my father dying for me to go to Georgia to find out about somebody that was operating right up the street where I went to the mosque every Friday.
Wow.
And never heard about him.
That is
So
something.
if I come off a little abrasive towards the Nation of Islam, that might explain why. Because I don't appreciate that. You know, I see it as a setback.
Right. And you had that personal experience to speak on that. So
right.
Absolutely.
And not to knock them because of some of the stuff that they exposed me to, like activism. Because Chicago is like huge activism ground zero, right? And I love telling people how, yeah, you know why McDonald's cooks in vegetable oil, their fries? Because of what the Muslims were doing in Chicago, making a stink about it. And I was there watching that.
Right.
And it was like, oh, we'll just give you that one McDonald's. All right, cool. Then all the Jews and all the Hindus start going to that one McDonald's. And next thing they know, they like, no, because the headquarters is in Dearborn. Is it Dearborn? It's in Olympia Fields or somewhere in Illinois. It's not that far from Chicago. So I guess they got wind of it and they were like, nah, this is dumb to just have one location where everybody's going to just because they can get fries not cooked in pork.
Right.
And I remember going to those rallies, right? So it's just certain things I won't accept, and I know how to get stuff done. You know, and I didn't assume there was any other way to be because everybody around me was doing that. So shout out to the Nation of Islam for that.
Absolutely. So you definitely, and I see it in the work you do, like you're definitely active. Like if there's a definition of an active Moor, you fit that mold.
Islam. I'm trying. Every day I aspire to be the best Moor I can.
Absolutely.
You know, the best of Moors. And I know I got competition. So, you know, and ain't no gender stuff going on. I don't care. Male, female, no matter to me. I mean, it does matter. You know, I'm not PC, you know. Right. In this respect, it's like, no, you're just competition, you know. In a good way, in a very good way.
In a good way. That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're gauging each other. We're using each other to measure our, you know.
Absolutely. Still sharpen steel. That's the way it is.
There you go.
So, absolutely. So I want to ask you, so what was it when you came across the information pertaining to Prophet Noble Drew Ali, when you researched it, you saw the Constitution that your father had, what was it specifically that made you say, okay, this is the path I need to take?
I always knew something was wrong, right? Just because I'm just like, okay, I'm looking around me. And you got to remember, this is in the 80s where stuff is like way different than what it is from today. Where today you see everybody represented in the media.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how old you are, but when I was growing up, I know we weren't represented in the media because I met the children who were growing up alongside me, but in other locations. And I met them in college. All of them without fail said, I was shocked when I saw Black people here on the streets. I thought y'all were just, you know, in the arenas and in jail, because that's all we saw on American TV. Like, all right, okay. So what made me want to get down with it was, so everybody, I'm not going to not notice how everybody copies off of us, but we're supposed to be the scum of the earth. Okay. We, of course, are taught, I don't know if you were taught this, but every child of our hue that I know was taught, you have to work twice as hard to be considered half as good. Yep. When I'm barely trying and there's no cheating going on, I'm blowing you out the water. Mm-hmm. I see that. And I'm not going to say I don't see it, right? Because everybody around me is acting like they don't see it, right? And I always knew something was off. The thing that really got me when I was in Arizona, was it Arizona? It might have been Nebraska, at yet another college studying. Yeah, was it? I'm gonna say Arizona, and I'm studying something about statistics, and I have to go through the census, right? And I'm looking like, okay, census from year 2000, whatever, census from 1990, census from 1980, 70, 60. There's a lot more categories in the 60s than in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Interesting. There's fewer categories because what used to be labeled as French, Spanish, Irish, German, blah, 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 separately is now in the 1970 census just white. What was labeled so-called Negro, Mexican, Puerto Rican, blah, 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 is labeled, or Asian, whatever. Everybody else remained broken up. So I'm like, okay. And you changed it from Negro to Black. Then I look at the 80s, it's from Negro or Black to African American. This is off one project. It's like, this is why I love to read, but I don't like to read because it's always transformative. It's like, here we go. You know, do I have some water, some provisions? Because I know I'm about to go in, that kind of thing. You know, it just takes you. And it's never just that. So I'm just like, yeah, that's interesting. They keep changing our name every 20 years. Something's wrong. Then was in Nebraska. Still at Nebraska, I pledged a sorority, Zeta Phi Beta, right? I just was trying to like network or something. And that was the only one where they weren't really asking me to do that much. And they were like, they were all the brainy girls. So I'm like, all right, I'll pledge with y'all. And I was the only one. I was what was that? The anchor and the wheel. Interesting, right? And I crossed or whatever, and all these people who didn't pay me like the time of day, I knew them because I hung out with like all the other people. But and I was from Chicago in Nebraska, so everybody knew me, right? They're like, how you get here? That's a good question, you know. But another story. But then they started like acting like I was something. I'm like, we're all quote unquote Black. And now that I'm Zeta, you acting like you know how to treat me. Oh, well, the Alphas and the Deltas, they got this history. The AKs and I don't know, name somebody, the Qs, they got this history. So now we know how we're going to treat you based on this. I'm just like, this is weird. And y'all acting like you've never been a part of something. I guess it stuck out to me because I grew up, you know, an obvious integral part of something that was being developed and raised to take somebody's place. Because I marched in parades and everything for the Nation of Islam. They were like big old giant float of what is that? Star and Crescent. So I'm just like, I know what we can do. That's what we were doing as Black folks, you know. That's what I saw when I was 7. I don't know what else to expect from us, right? So how I knew it was for me was because I have a degree in history. One of my degrees is history. So I'm just, let me just look them up. These Moors that I've never heard of, except in passing. And I never really saw pictures of them unless it's like, you know, because I went to college, like I graduated in 2005. So internet was just becoming big and there were definitely no pictures of the Moors up there. Right. So I'm like, let me just look it up. And I'm just like, this is bogus. You know how it is like when you know something's there.
Right.
You're looking for it, and now it's like, oh, this has been deliberately hidden. Okay, I got you. Now I'm angry.
Right.
And I don't know if you do the astrology thing, but yeah, I got a lot of Aries in my chart. A lot of Aries. So yeah, I'd appreciate that. I don't like being tricked. You know, I don't like folks lying to my face. I don't like people sticking their lies on me. You know, doing heinous things in my name. And I could blow something up, or I could write a book and tell everybody, tell generations, help other Moors do the same. Because I don't have the turns out I don't have the patience to sit down and write a book. I'll help you put your book out though, you know, and I'll read a book while I'm at it. So, yeah. You know,
absolutely. I'm an Aries, so so I can relate.
Yeah, thank you for that warning. All right, cool.
We good. Listen,
right,
Islam. I wanted to since you mentioned about your time in college, you know, and your knowing of history. I myself, I had the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Jose Pimienta Bay, and he spoke about, you know, what inspired him to write Othello's Children in reference to how he got into the academic world in order to research. And he said he originally didn't set out to try to prove what he learned from his uncle, because his uncle, of course, was a Moor who taught him at an early age and brought him to the temple. He was trying to see whether it really gelled. And he kept, like you said, he kept seeing over and over the images of the Moors. So you having that background, having that scholastic background, was you able to transfer that over into what you do now? In other words, you as a researcher, helping people write books, to be able to say, hey, look, I know where the sources are. You see what I'm saying? Where the average person went.
I don't know if I had to transfer it, because now that you asked, I'm sitting here thinking, you said about your college days, because I've been through a lot of colleges, right? And I'm thinking about my professors, especially the ones that stick out, right? So, where was I? I started out at the University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana, right? Washed out. I'm not going to skip all that whole saga, right? And then found out that I had been accepted to Nebraska. And they like, yeah, just come on. 3 years after you applied. Yeah, just come on. All right. So that's how I ended up in Nebraska. At least back then, University of Nebraska-Lincoln, part of the curriculum didn't matter like what your major was. Everybody was required to take the gen eds, of course, health and introduction to Native American studies. Required. That's how I ended up in history, right? Because I like bounced around and all this stuff, and I'm just like, okay, nursing, nope, blood, can't do it. What is this? Food science, too much chemistry, can't do it. Education, they're not asking too much. No Child Left Behind, not doing it, right? Oh, history? Oh, okay, I could do history, right? So I'm going through, because of this introduction to Native American history course in Nebraska, you know, I guess it's for sensitivity, because everybody out there was from a farm. It was crazy. Or Omaha, right? And I got real cool with the professor, who was, the way he said it, he was a pale skin, a modern European, and he had been adopted into one of the tribes out there, which is why they were letting him teach the introduction class, because they like, you know, it's like the 2000. I think this was like 2001. So everybody's like ultra, like, we got to start putting some sensitivity in there. If you're not those people, you don't get to talk about those people anymore. You better start making a phenom who's going to cite you. We ain't doing that no more, right? Where the African history teacher is a British guy. No more of that, right? And I had that, right? So this was when the transition was going on. So he was able to do that. And I got to go to his office hours, and I'm looking at his books, and he's like, I'm talking to you. I'm like, what? I'm like, never mind. This is that. Because I wasn't listening to him because I was so entranced by his book collection. I'm like, dang, who wrote all this? I wrote some of them, you know, but it's hard finding books written by Native Americans. So a lot of them are written by Europeans. That's stuck in my head. So fast forward a couple years, I'm in Arizona, going to the University of Arizona, Tempe, right? And best time. I'm trying to study history, right? Found out about the school I can get course credit for studying Japanese because I love anime and I can't stand dubs. Like, okay, instead of reading, I'm just gonna learn Japanese, right? And somehow that wound me up in another Native American history class. Like, what's going on? You know, like I'm trying to study Japanese, right? And they're like, well, since you studying that anyway, and you got some, check this out. You studying Japanese language because that's what you're actually interested in, right? You have some background in Native American studies. So we're going to suggest that you take Asian and Asian Pacific American history. I'm just sitting there like, what at the time? Like, how did you make that leap?
Right.
Like, okay, because it's Asian history. I'm thinking just, Mongoloid people, right? Who, of course, they were all shocked, like, how did you get here? You are one of 40,000 of your people in the whole state in Asian history. So you can imagine what the class must look like, right? And it was just interesting that that's where my guidance counselor put me. And I wound up studying Asian history because I just wanted to take Japanese, wound up in a Native American. I don't even know if it was Native American history or just American history. But I do remember the professor, Donald Fixico, right? I think he's like a distinguished fellow now. This guy was amazing because he was the first, or is, because he's still alive, the first Native American to earn a PhD in history in this country. And I'm just like, when he said that, because he didn't tell us till like the end of the class, and there was no Wikipedia back then, right? So I'm just like, I'm glad you waited to the end of the class to say that, because I don't know if I would have been able to pay attention. I would have been just awestruck that I'm sitting here with the first Native American with a PhD in his own topic. And he was cool. And he was going into why he went into history, because he couldn't find any books about his people written by his people. But he sure did find a whole lot of errors and just like presumptions and straight up prejudices and lies. So right. He was like, let me be the tip of that shovel and start digging, start telling y'all the truth. So that was inspirational. And he was cool because of him, I got to he had us do a project. And he was like, you can pick anything you want. And I think he's like, you can pick anything you want as long as it has something to do with legislation and Native Americans. Okay. This should be fun, I worked at a daycare, right? Because I'm getting a double major in education and this history stuff. So I work in a daycare to get half of that taken care of, right? And one of the women that works there is Native American. I think she said she was White Mountain Apache. Okay. Right? Oh, she was cool when she didn't have any eyebrows, because apparently those women just don't have eyebrows. And when she would get mad, her hair would stick straight up. It was the coolest thing. You could see it just like rising like porcupine spine. She was like, yeah, look up pictures of our babies and they all have that hair like that, right? And it eventually calms down, except when we get upset, right? Turns out, I'm like, you're Native American, but you have I can't remember her name. Miss Sally. I can't remember her last name. But I'm like, you have a Spanish last name. What's going on? Oh, I was adopted by Mexicans. Really? How did that happen? I don't know. But I have some of the paperwork. Okay. So I know about the Adoption Act for Native American children and how they were not supposed to be given out to people outside of their tribe. You were supposed to be with your tribe. Here go my project, how to find out how that happened to you. And on this journey, turns out Arizona State University, Tempe, at this time, I don't know if it's still there, they had this little corner tucked in at the top floor of their main library. And it was dedicated to Native American periodicals. So I got to like find all this stuff like, oh my, this is just unreal. This is like a new newspaper museum for Native Americans. I didn't even know y'all have had newspapers and magazines and all this other stuff this long. No books though. But hey, you get there, right?
Right.
And that's how I learned how to do research. Because I'm like, okay, again, I'm sticking out. I already stick out because it's not that many of us in Arizona, right? And now, what are you doing up in? It's tons of Native Americans, tons of Asians. What are you doing up in here? They get talking to me and just like, let me show you some stuff. Oh, you should go look this up. Go talk to this person. Right. So that got me a job. I can't remember where it was. Just following crumbs around, I ended up working for the dean of libraries on a project. I'm just like, all right. That's why I'm like, I don't know if anything translates. This is just like what I've been trained to do. So I'm doing what somebody tell me, hey, go. Actually, it's easier now because it used to be like, go, here's a topic, do everything.
Yeah.
Including cite it correctly, had a layout done right. In Nebraska, they were forcing us to put graphics and stuff up in it and then bring it back. Now, at least it's like, okay, I did all that other part. Can you just put the layout together and put a cover on it for me and put it on the platform to sell it? It's like that I can do, for most of my authors. So, yeah.
So you've basically been prepared. Like you've been.
Yeah. I tell my grand chic, I feel like I'm being dragged. Not guided, not pushed, drag.
Wow.
I ain't complaining because I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I could definitely tell. Now the professor, now you may have said it, but what tribe was he?
What was he? You can look it up. I'm gonna look it up right quick because he got a Wikipedia page. I was so happy for him. Because it was like, okay, let me look. You know how you go back and see people 20 years later, and it's just like, golly, you blew out. What is he? Yeah, he's a distinguished foundation professor of history at Arizona State University.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember I got to sit at his feet, so to speak, when he still had black hair. Pretty dope. Okay, he's Sean. Oh, wait. He's an enrolled member of the Sac and Fox Nation and descendant of the Shawnee, Muskegee, and Seminole people. And I remember his story, like all that stuff that stuck out, how every night he would tell his son who he came from. Like, you are, I can't remember his name, son of Donald. That's me. I am Donald, son of blah, blah. He was of the tribe of blah, 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 blah. He was the son of blah, blah, tribe of blah, 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 blah. He was the son of every night. And he's like, yeah, it takes a long time to get him to bed. I'm like, what? Ooh, I'm gonna remember that. That could come in. That's gonna come in handy because it got stuck in my head, So, yeah.
So with that, transitioning from that and you coming into the knowledge of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, I know you were prepared for it, but I guess you kind of answered it. But what brought you to the point where you said, I have to create or at least help establish Khalifa Media? Because and this is why I'm prefacing it, because it's one thing to be an author. Like, I'm an author, I can just be responsible for my work as an author and put it out there, do my research. But you have a unique positioning where you are facilitating multiple authors. So what gave you the drive to do that?
It kind of just happened. Again, remember I said if I feel like I'm being dragged?
Right.
So I'm in California. I find myself now in California. Notice I'm naming all these different states, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm in California. And I find some Moors burning wood on the beach. I'm like, yeah, I want in, right? I already knew who the Moors were at this point, right? So I joined their temple. And the Grand Sheik there, I think he asked me to do something like some letterhead or something. And I'm like, okay, opportunity. Let me show out. Let me show you how I can do what I can do with graphics. He was impressed. So he was like, here, try this, try this, try this. One of the things he said, try is the book in your hand.
Okay.
So how do I end up with authors coming to me? And then I think I mentioned it to Cujo. And he's like, oh, I got a book. I thought he said a book. And then he emails me like 5 or 6. So how do I find? I don't. They find me.
it just came to you.
Yeah, I don't mind. I'm here. That's I like my play. I like my lane. I love my lane, right? I love to read. I love to play around on the computer and draw and all this stuff. Basically, I can do everything except write the dang book. I can even do comic books. I actually wanted to be an animator when I was a child.
Okay.
And I can feel myself slowly inching towards that. Right. So it's just like, let me get out a few more books and then I don't know. Because that was my childhood dream, so who knows? Everything else has just been like, here, do this. All right, I guess I'm doing this now. So yep.
That'd be nice. Comic book, yeah, that'd take it to another level. Absolutely.
Because I used to do them when I was a child, just fill up notebooks, like those big 200-page spiral bound notebooks.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Actually, it was what is that? My South Node is in my 7th house, so I don't know. Maybe I was drawing a whole bunch of stuff from my past life. All right, so I don't know, because I was just filling those mugs up. So yep.
That's nice. That's nice. We got a question in. I want to bring this up real quick. Islam. The Jawan Mutakabir Bey says, do you do proofreading for other authors? And
yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do. I do beta reads too. I don't know if you know what those are.
Can you explain to the people what beta reads are?
Okay, proofreading is like actually I don't know if I have time to do proofreading because there's so much stuff other things I want to do. But okay, so you give your book to an editor, right? They make sure everything's done. They talk to the layout specialist and everything, right? They turn it into a book. The proofreader will take that manuscript and read through it to make sure there's no grammatical errors and punctuation and all that stuff. All right. That's why usually interns do it, right? Beta readers are usually editors because they read a lot. And they will read your finished document, which is like, okay, I'm about to put this mug on the shelf. It's probably been proofread already, but the beta reader can do that for you. And they'll tell you, your book will be better if you did this. You said this too often. Did you know you changed the name of the character in chapter 3? That kind of thing. That's what a beta reader does.
Okay, so they basically kind of, and I'm paraphrasing, kind of give a feel of how, not so much as far as the grammatical aspects of it, but kind of how it reads.
Right, like a peer review.
Gotcha.
You remember those when you had to hand it off to a classmate and they had to tell you, it's one of those. Okay. But it's usually from someone who is doing something where they're dealing with grammar all day, right? Like who is it? Copywriters. They're really good at it. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So as a book publisher, independent book publisher, what has been or what is your biggest challenge, you would say, to date?
I would say accounting, but I don't know. I'm not that I can't do it. I just can't find the time. It's like numbers, they'll be there, that kind of thing. And then the other thing is, I guess publishing or publicizing, because it's amazing how many people say, I didn't know about you. Like, dang, we've been here since 2014. And it's like, so what am I doing wrong where you just now finding out about me? And we've been out for like 8 years. So getting the word out, but that seems to be handling itself. I'm almost feeling like I've been given a chance to get everything established. So I actually have something to talk about.
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
And I noticed that you've been pretty active on IG. That's how we connected to do this interview. And also, you have a YouTube channel as well. You want to go ahead and plug that?
Oh, Khalifa Media, everything, right? Okay. KhalifaMedia.com, YouTube, Khalifa Media, Instagram, Khalifa Media. I think I have a what is that called? TikTok.
Okay.
I'm with the young people lingo, but I don't know. Whew. No shade to anybody who's succeeding, but that TikTok is a cesspool. It really is. So
right.
It's hard to be on there. I just like upload once in a while and I'm out. I don't stick around. So yeah.
Yeah, they
I know it's necessary because that's what the children are. Like 12 and up. Oh, right. I already don't want to deal with this because I know what it's about to be. And it's amazing. Like, you mean to tell me people are just sitting in front of cameras all day doing this stuff? The stuff that people are catching on film. And I'm just like, does that mean you just sitting there filming stuff, filming your life all day long, looking at a screen? I'm just like, because you said I post a lot on Instagram. I'm like, I do? I have to like scrounge up time for it because I got other stuff to do, like work on a book, read a book, attend a meeting, pray for the sick. Y'all just sitting in front of these screens. More power to you, but I got better things to do, for real.
Well, it's a lot to me. Like I'm an older guy. Like I'm not that make you see what I'm saying? It's kind of relevant because this is what I noticed in social media. And you can give your account and just say, nah, I don't see it that way. But with social media, everything there's always something new happening. Like we live busy lives. And like you said, there's always somebody looking at something. So I may be away from social media for days on end, or just enough where I get a notification. I'm not stuck in front of a phone or a device. So if I see someone post something new the next time I come up after my long hiatus, then to me they're active. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of relevant.
All right, that's what's up. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so
I'm like, dang, maybe I should cut back.
Yeah, it's a compliment. Trust me.
Social media is a scam, right? They got these mugs up here producing free content, right?
Right.
I'm like, man, because I saw an author talking or an artist. I think she was a painter, and she was like, "Are you spending so much time trying to promote your stuff on Instagram, even if you just don't dedicate an hour to it a week? That's an hour you just took away from your craft. Which would you really rather be doing? And actually, in the long run, which one is going to really do something for you? Well, I'm going to spend an hour to make this story that's going to last for 24 hours. Or this post that's going to get lost in how many other posts that got put up that day. Mm-hmm. So I guess people are turning to film, and I'm like, that's about to go the same route, right? So I'm going old school, going backwards. Like, yep, I'm going to see how bare bones I can be, because I think that's going to be the next trend. People going to just be like sensory overload, and they're going to want it as simple as possible, right? Absolutely. Like, I want the pure essence of whatever you got. I don't want no production. I don't want no music. Editing, none of that. Watch, because people doing too much. Not that I blame them. The ones who have found success in it, or it makes them happy, because I've heard people say it gives me someone to talk to, right? So, and this dude is now in a mansion and driving a Tesla. It's like, hey, I'm glad that worked out. It seems to be working out for you. I ain't got time. I really, maybe one day. I'm doing a lot right now. So yeah.
So speaking of that, what are some new projects? You did mention about the charities, and before we get into the book, what are some new projects you're doing?
I'm working on a turban book. Yay. I'm giving myself the deadline of the solstice, because I said it would be done by autumn. I didn't say where and during autumn, right? So the solstice, it officially ends on the solstice. So I'm just like, yeah. So Allah willing, it'll be done. I kind of went in on this one because it's graphics. I love graphics, right? And blur trivia. I'm a Gemini, right? So I like quick facts, right? And it's got instructions in it on how to tie different kinds of turbans, right? And the metaphysics of the different aspects of the turban. Okay, what happens if you put it right over left versus left over right? That's all up in there. And then after that, I'm taking a break. I need a break because I've been doing a lot. I don't know why I keep doing myself like this. Like, I already got like 6-7 stones. Pile one more on. I could take it, right? So that's why I said the book might be a little late, because like you mentioned right now, the charity, Mercy Charities, MRCI charities.org, is working on the 40 days of gifting, where we're raising money for different causes so that active boards will have, a little boost during the fiscal new year, right? And we'll be making presentations on the Prophet's Naval Day, right? Not solar return, because that might actually be a few days or a few days after the actual date, so Naval Day. So yeah, other than that, yep, that's what I got going on. Because like I said, I need a break. I'm actually winding down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just posted up mrcicharities.org. So everybody go ahead and support. I also, while I have it up here, I'm going to post, got the link.
Islam, gratitude.
Training guide, which will bring me to the book.
Islam.
So I see, first thing I noticed, well, first, because we talked about graphics, let's get into the graphics. Okay. So can you give us a brief breakdown of what inspired?
Okay. So, yeah, hold it. Can you hold? Okay. Wait, let me get my copy. I got so many books. There's one on my shelf. I'm looking at the two other ones. Okay. So you have the sister at the top. She's the pinnacle, right? So she has on the white turban that's wrapped in the traditional style, right? And then I have the other sisters just by her side. And if you actually look at it, that's a sister giving birth. And those 4 women are attending her.
Okay.
So the upright star is arm, arm. Arm, leg, arm, head.
Yes.
Yeah, that. I'm sorry. It's late. I'm like distracted. I got other stuff to do. No excuses. But yeah. But that's Allah right there, right?
Yes.
And then if you look in the heart, there's another star, but it's inverted. That's the baby that's about to come out of the birth passage.
Okay.
Yeah. And like I said, I guess you could look at the ribbons. Those are her arms and her legs. And then there's her head. But recently, and then Eunice, okay, that star is inverted. And the heart and with the Eunice under it, that's based on the first Sisters Auxiliary pin that I was given as part of Tag Day. I might actually have it with me. Yeah, I might actually have one with me. Ain't that something? Yep, there it is. Okay, yeah, this is it. So that's the pin. That's this pin.
Got it.
Like, yeah, it would just make sense to put it on the Sisters Auxiliary book, right? So yeah, that's the tag. There's another one that I've designed since then, but yeah, that's where that comes from. And then recently it's taken on another thing, another meaning. So like that's interesting. I just learned about in Chinese history, which I'm like, I should have seen this, but I never noticed it. In Chinese history, you have like the emperor, and then he has these different levels of consorts, right? The top consort is the empress. Her bloodline plus the emperor's bloodline make sure that their children is like, pristine, noble, right? Then he has all these other concubines, and then those are just like the harem, so to speak. And then you have these other women, right? And they're different levels of consorts, right? So underneath the empress, I think it's like 2 that are like supervisory, and then all these other ones are under them. And if I remember correctly, under those 2, or it might be 2, 2, 2, 2, but it comes out, it's 4 women. And those 4 women are like the highest consorts. Empress is for the bloodline. These 4 women are there to secure the emperor's position because their attributes are noble, pure, virtuous, and able. Right? So if you look at the cover again, you have 4 sisters: noble, pure, virtuous, able, and in the pinnacle, I guess it's the Sultana.
Absolutely. So you see how that all connects. Yeah, that's nice right there. That you was able to connect that into that. That makes Law governs all events.
Exactly. Because I looked at it like, oh, that fits, you know.
Yeah,
So yeah, Islam.
Islam. And so you talked about the tag. I want to just show the people that you actually did an excerpt from the Moorish Guide in reference to that tag day, the Sisters Auxiliary. For those who may not know, can you give a brief overview of one, the Sisters Auxiliary, tag day, as well as if you was able, because you did say this was based on the original 1928 edition given put together by Sister Augustus Bay.
Right.
Did you find any history on her? So in any order you want to explain that about Tag Day, Sisters Auxiliary, and Sister Augustus Bay.
Okay. So Sister Augustus Bay, no, I haven't been able to find any information on her, but I'm looking for it, just like I'm looking for information on Mary. All right. Speaking of Mary, the Sisters Auxiliary was set up so that the sisters would have a means of meeting and gathering and, you know, honing that feminine energy and getting some stuff done. And it was interesting what happened, where Tag Day came from. Like, the prophet is he's just amazing. I'm trying to make sure I remember the story correctly. So, prophet had two wives, Pearl and Mary, right? Pearl was in charge of the temple treasury, yes, and the men's business league treasury, right? Mary, the 16-year-old, she was in charge of the Sisters Auxiliaries treasury, right? So I'm going to go ahead and say that's who Sister Augustus is, because, you know, sometimes we just got to, just let it come together. I'm not saying figure it out. Let it come together in your head. And it's just like, that just makes too much sense. So why was Mary in charge of the money, but Sister Augustus is the one writing the book? So thank goodness Mary was in charge of the money, because a whole bunch of the prophet went out of town, right? Before he went out of town, he gave he read through the Sisters Auxiliary book that was written by Sister Augustus Bay. And I think that's her husband's last name, which is probably why I can't find her. And he didn't write this book. He had them write it, and then he gave the okay. He was like, yeah, I approve of this, because he knew he didn't have no place telling women how to behave. But, you know, as the head of the temple, he was like, okay, let me find the most prudent woman. I love being called a prude, right? Find the most prudent woman and have her ask all these sisters that probably think she's looking down on them, what do they think it would be appropriate behavior, you know, now that you've been in the temple for a while. And then the prophet gonna sign off on that, right? And one of your dudes, and he about to leave town. So right before he left, he set up Tag Day. And if you look at it, it says we're gonna gather up funds and give them to the prophet when he returns, right? That's in the book.
Yes.
So Pearl, depending on who you ask, but again, if you just let stuff come together, knowing I'm from Chicago, all right, so I was around these people, knowing how those people are, how they were back then, they was kind of a little worse, because this was during the time of Al Capone. So
right.
Yeah, they were kind of corrupt, you know. Obviously they were corrupt, right? All of them, or enough of them were corrupt, because there was no temple after the prophet left. So anyway, I'm just gonna say it. Pearl betrayed the prophet. Well, who was it? Claude Green? Was that the one that put all this stuff out the temple? And he also stole 2 treasuries. Thank goodness he put Mary in charge of the Sisters Auxiliary, because she had the money from Tag Day to get them back from down south. Actually, I think he was coming back from Cuba.
Right, Cuba. Yep.
So thank goodness the Sisters Auxiliary was there, and he had split the money up, right? Yeah, it's a whole messed up story. that I'll come out with it one day. I just don't think right now it's the appropriate time. But it's whoo, it could be a mini series. It should be a mini series.
It could be. Definitely could be.
It should be a mini series to show, just as bad as those Italians and the Irish were acting up there, the Moors were acting up too. See the temple, right? What happened to the treasury? What happened to all those businesses? Right? So
that's a fact. That is definitely a fact. So with that, I noticed one thing, and you can kind of get into it in reference to what you cover, because you cover a lot, particularly in how women should conduct themselves in this movement. I want to speak to two things. One, your upbringing in the Nation of Islam, because I know one thing we know is that the sisters in the Nation of Islam are very disciplined. They conduct themselves very well mannered. You know what I'm saying? Organized. You showed some pictures as well of the MGT with them, etc. How much did that help you in putting this book together? Also, the state of women today. When I say the state of women today, we just talked about social media. You know, there's a lot of less than virtuous activity going on all sides. But, you know, just speaking specifically, you as a woman, and how, you know, where you see that at is today. What is your take on that? So how would you speak on that?
So to start with how I was raised, right? So yes, raised very disciplined, you know, raised to sew clothes, cook, clean. I wanted to grow up and be a mommy, housewife, right? And then I turned 18 and got out on my own, and I tested every single thing that they taught us and found out why that stuff is there. All right. So if I see, it's like, whew, I'm glad I was not around when everybody had their phones out. I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, I tested everything, and I found out, like, oh, this is why that's endured, that kind of thing, right? So my opinion on how these girls, I'm not gonna call them women because they're acting really immature, right?
Right.
Even into their 30s, they're acting like this. So you're a girl, right? So these girls, like I think I said, I worked in a daycare. All right. I was born in 1977. All right. My mother was among the first generation to wear a pantsuit. Right. That was when mother started leaving the home. My mother was 11 years old when she got her first. I was 11 years old when my mother got a job. I mean, she had worked up until she got married. And then my father was like, "You're done with that. I will work 2 jobs." And he did. Actually, he had a job and had his own business. And so she could stay home with us. And then once we were 11 and could get ourselves in and out the house just fine, she went and got herself a job. Right. So there was no daycare in my life. Right. I have I guess a nice little bit of confidence because I had both of my parents and they paid plenty of attention to me. Right. So then fast forward 25 years. Interesting. 25 years. Actually, I think it was 26 years. And I'm working in a daycare. And it's unreal how starved these children are for attention. Right?
Right.
They just love me because I love children. I don't mind. You know, I don't really dig babies. I love children. Right? And I just treated them like they were my own. I'm like, I don't know what else to do with y'all. I'm just gonna treat you like I was, yelling at them. And I think I smacked a couple of them. And they all always slip and call me mom. So these women today that we see like on screen, a lot of them would be the same age as those children I was watching in daycare. I just can't help but see that they're desperate for attention, because if you're showing what you have, what you're the most proud of. Otherwise, what are you doing it for? You took the time to make a video. I'm guessing that's something you want to display your pride about it. I do videos on, I found Negro cloth, and I'm calling names. I'm naming all the towns that had a hand in that. But,
yes,
you're taking off your clothes and squatting. That's what you got. I'm going to say that's not all you got, right? Because I'm guessing I'm going to hold out hope that you got, please let you have something else, because you look young enough to breed, right? And this is where the destruction of a nation comes from, right? Of a civilization, really. Because what was that movie? Idiocracy?
Yes.
That movie, wow. I didn't find it funny. I found it very depressing. Because it was too on the money, for real. So yeah. I'll just let the little girls know, the ones who acting like this. You know what? Give me a sec. Go upstairs, please. Thank you. I'll be done in a minute. All right. Anyway, do you wonder why? I'm gonna guess a lot of like the ones who are doing this on screen, why your mom stays in the house, right? She probably don't go out that much. She definitely ain't shaking her booty in the camera. You probably want to ask her why. Because when I grew up, the women were always talking about how important it was for a woman to maintain her reputation, right?
Right.
Because her reputation, unfortunately, through no fault of her own, maybe it is, reflects on her entire house.
Yeah.
So if you're a loose woman, people are going to make fun of your children for that, no matter how much money you make off of it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'm looking at, not to bring her up, but Kim Kardashian, her oldest daughter is like 9 years old and has her own phone. You swear she hasn't looked up, how did my mom become famous? How you going to keep her from that?
Right.
Exactly. That's why you don't do that stuff. Remember I said, you get it? Yeah. Now, when she grow up, she going to be like, ladies, don't do it. Don't do it. Yeah, you're going to make money. Yeah, you're going to have this attention from these guys. But your children are going to change their name and move to another country. Because look what you did to people look for any reason to make fun of a child, even if that child has nothing to do with it. That's just like, how long has that been around, right? What is that called? The sins of the father? That's pretty old, ain't it? It's double for women. We aren't brought up in that book because it's like some things you should just know. Haven't you seen how this turns out for other women? Are you not paying attention? Stop looking at Cardi B. Stop looking at these people that are paid, and talk to the women that are still pretty good looking, but they don't go out no more.
Right.
They probably trying to save somebody even more shame.
Absolutely. And speaking of shame, it's a shame when you have a situation where that activity is passed from generation to generation.
Because they're not telling them. I really think they're not. It's as simple as that, right? My mother actually told me that before. I think my father told me that too.
Right.
Where, he was really light skinned, right? And I'm going through my hotep phase, right? And I'm like, I can't stand these whipped people, and they raped their way in our family. He like, what are you talking about? I'm like, look at you. Like, what? Like, no. My grandfather was a European. His word, quote, a straight up Peckerwood who married my grandmother, right? And they had to escape from Louisiana to Mississippi. I never did find out how that worked. Like, what? So he was like, no. No. You got to be careful with assumptions and all that stuff. I don't even know why I brought that up. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. So
it'll come back to me. I know it was leading to something.
Well, we were talking about generation, how activity.
Oh, yeah. And he had said, I'm like, I never knew that. I thought it was like everybody else's story. All the light-skinned people came from somebody getting raped on a plantation. He was like, no, that was my grandfather married my grandmother. That's how I'm so light. I'm like, why you never tell me? It never came up. how was I? It's like, Dad, you didn't think to tell me, and I didn't think to ask, you know.
Right.
But maybe that's too. As far as the reputation thing, I got that from my mother, because she was really social, like really social. So I was privy to like a lot of women, female conversations, and they would always be talking junk about the women, you know, talking about other women's business. I'm like, well, how do I keep my name out their mouth? You know, so yeah.
Absolutely. Definitely, you don't want that. Now, I want to kind of ask you a couple of final questions. And definitely, I appreciate your time. Star Child, one of our viewers, asked a question since you mentioned about the turban. What are your thoughts on different colors of the turban? Will you be covering that? I guess he meant to say in your book, because you're coming out with a book on that.
Yes, it is covered in the book. All right. We have been instructed to wear all the colors of the rainbow, right? Don't go crazy. Like, I think it's no more than 3 colors in one thing, you know, but you can wear pattern. I wear patterned, right? And then it's in the book also, but the different colors have different meanings as well. Like today I'm wearing because you don't have to just do the colors for your turban. You can do the colors with your button too. All right. And we do, Khalifa Media has these buttons, or you can go to my temple 27, MoorishAmericans.org, which is crazy. They got that title or that URL. But yeah, they got buttons for sale, and they're different colors because the colors of the buttons even mean something different. Right. And since you asked, right, I guess I will do a video on that and post it to Khalifa Media's YouTube coming soon. Probably not until after the 24th, because I'm trying to get this book done. And I'm like, I'm like this close, but you know what it means when you're like that close. It feels like that close, you know. So yeah, I'm almost done. So yo,
okay. Look forward to that. I definitely want to say that I appreciate your work here. I'm actually, as soon as I got it in, my wife just snatched it up.
That's what's up.
I just had to snatch it right back just for this interview and get into it. But definitely great work, great research. In closing, I would like to ask, is there any final thoughts in terms of what you want to see in terms of your work? Like what is your vision of your work, and any final with Khalifa Media, of course, and any final words you want to give to the Moors and those watching?
What I want to come of my work, I've already had my work become what I want it to be.
Got it.
You know, I could croak out right now and I would be okay with that. Right. Thank you, Moors, for the support. I really appreciate that, because that support is going right back into our community. As far as mercy charities, I'm gonna keep saying that again. That funds that help the Moors to do certain things, like get out of jail, came from Moors buying books. You know, so thank you all for that. And if y'all could just do me a favor and just remember my last name, that's it. Because no matter what happens to Khalifa Media, you know, at least my children will have that name. So if you hear that name, know that they grew up with somebody who did this. They probably got something for you. So yeah, hook them up. That's it. And do the same for your children. You know, set up 7 generations. There's my advice for the Moors. Everything you do, right? I wish I had my T-shirt. Everything you do as a Moor, everything you do matters as a Moor, right? Or everything you do as a Moor matters. But yeah, every single thing I do, it's like, how can I make sure if I come back, right? Because I think that's what the 7 generations is coming on. You better make sure you set something up for 7 generations, because that's what you're gonna have to be living in. So you better hook them up. You know, I don't know. It's just a theory, right? So my thing is, if I can just give them a book.
Yes.
People, how long is that gonna last? And then that's another reason to get off of these screens and go do something like concrete. If the power goes out, what you got?
Exactly.
What you got? Oh, I'm a Bitcoin. Well, I guess we can't say that anymore. Bitcoin millionaire.
No, that's over.
Hey, it was all up in the astrology too. I'm just like, really, y'all really do not see this freight train a coming, right?
Right.
You might want to get out the way. That's what you get for getting on the track in the first place. But yeah, yeah, go get off these screens and go do something. You know, I've had people walk up to my mother. I don't know how comfortable I am with this because we look just alike, right? I have a twin sister and we both look like our mother, right? How fair is that? And she said somebody walked up to her like, "Are you related to Sister Najee-Ullah?" And she was like, does she know you? No, but I know her. I was like, what? You said this to my mother? I just write books. So I'm gonna guess it was harmless. I don't even write them. They're not my words. I just help other people put them out. You know, don't come for me, and don't come for my family either. You know. So yeah, 7 generations. Islam. I'm just getting started. I feel like I'm just getting started. You know.
Yeah, definitely.
This is a sign. It's like, wow. I was just joking when I said you should interview me. Like, wow, for real? No, all right, I'll be 7 o'clock. I'll be there.
I appreciate you. Like this is what it's about. Like when I did that live, I really mean this. Like I want to put the word out. As someone who has written and published books, I don't think we get enough exposure. You know, so anything that I can do to help, I'm down for it. You know what I'm saying?
Islam. Gratitude to you for that. Islam.
And you know, inshallah, that would be my legacy, part of my legacy that I can leave, like you said, for that 7 generations, that more actually, you know, did the work to the best of their ability. Yep. So absolutely. So sister, I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
My everybody, pleasure. Thank you. For real.
Yes, everybody. I see everybody enjoying this on the chat. Support the sister. You already know. Go to the mrcicharities.org. Go and get her book. Get all the books if you can.
We got pins, we got buttons, we got t-shirts,
buttons, buttons,
turbans, all kinds of stuff.
Turbans.
You know? That's why I was like, I'm just getting started because some sisters got a hold of that book and started an auxiliary, and now I'm part of that auxiliary. So
praise Allah.
Stay tuned.
Allah. Yes.
So yeah.
Great words. Well, without further ado, with that said, everyone, a gratitude for being on another episode of Masterminds with Brother Shem. And until next time, peace and love, family.
Peace and love, y'all. Islam. Gratitude.
Islam.
Y'all be cool.
Islam.